Hello there, World of Tankers. I'm Blitz, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 3 Tier 10 light tanks in World of Tanks Blitz. Now, all 3 of these tanks have their own very cool and respective attributes. Of course, the Batchat, the original, has a clip, 310 damage per shell, and 930 in an entire clip. The Vickers Light, the brand new British light tank, comes with a very modest 350 damage. It is not a clipper, however, it does come with the best view range in the game and excellent mobility. And you take a look at the Sheridan, the most loved light tank in the game currently. It has 560 average damage, and as well shoots missiles that can loop around buildings and curve around objects. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about all 3 of these tanks, telling you my personal opinions on them, and as well which one of these I feel is personally the best light tank. So if you do like this type of video, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Really does help out the channel, helps me grow a crazy amount. But other than that, I hope you guys do enjoy this video, and I'm going to get straight into it. Getting straight into it, we are going to start off with the Sheridan. Now, in my opinion, this is the most influential and the least influential at the same time. And that's why I'm going to be placing it as like a 50-50 on getting this vehicle. A lot of people just absolutely want this tank and adore it because it's able to shoot missiles. But the actual amount of people that can run this tank correctly and penetrate all their missiles, even I can't do it, and that's what sort of takes this tank away from the extremely influential side, because, yeah, well, I'm an okay player in this tank. I'm definitely not my strongest with the missiles, and it really holds me back on some scenarios where if you get a player like Israel Fatness, yeah, he can do amazing with the missiles. But in my opinion, even if you are able to do amazing things with this tank, the issue is just that it doesn't have the damage per minute to support you in a really tough scenario. If that E50M had rushed me right there, I would have been completely destroyed right off the bat. Now, of course, I do have support, but if you do not have support in this tank, you have to be extremely careful. You can see here, even that shell, very close to that E50M, went right on his upper plate. It was not even close to where I was aiming. And that's because this tank does not sport good accuracy. Overall, it's really not the best ever if you're using your standard ammo. Which means if you're going up against tanks like, let's say, an IS-4, you can literally not penetrate the vehicle anywhere on the front. So then you're forced to use your missiles, which is lowering your damage per minute, which is about 2,500 to about 2,000, which is an extremely low damage per minute. You can see just how long I have to aim at that 704. About 5 seconds before I'm actually able to comfortably shoot that shell, and it still had a very high chance of actually not hitting him, ricocheting off a plate of armor that I didn't see. And that's one thing that this tank really struggles in, is just penetrating shots, and second of all, even hitting them in the first place. But on the contrary, there you go. That wasn't an extremely skilled shot, but you're able to see, you're able to penetrate missiles on people that aren't able to shoot you, which makes this tank extremely effective at actually holding the line, because you don't want to lose hit points. Very quick solution to that. Just don't pull out, shoot a missile over the ridge, and boom, enemy loses hit points. It's because you have such an amazing amount of missile penetration or heat penetration, whatever you want to call it. It isn't that bad, but there is an issue. First of all, that right there is user error. I completely suck with missiles. It's one thing that I'll own up to. I can't run this tank correctly. I don't run it a lot. And if you're not great with missiles or touch controls or even PC controls, you're really going to struggle running this vehicle. And that's one thing that causes this tank to not be the best, is user error. You can't always guess what's going to happen on the battlefield. The second issue is, as I've said, when you add the damage per minute with this vehicle, as it is an extremely strong survivability. In my account, I actually survive a lot of games in this tank, but that's because I'm always the last person left on the team. You'll always notice that whenever you're in like a draw scenario, or even your team's going to lose, probably the last tank most times out of it is going to be the Sheridan. And that's because he's set at the back of the map, he's not able to get out the most damage, so you just got this full health Sheridan that's been trying to lob missiles, try to support your team, and they're not able to get that damage out, or they've been camping at the back trying to shoot missiles. So that's one thing that I always notice in my Sheridan, is I'm always last left on the team. But even though I've had the entire battle to get damage out, I'm not able to expel it that much. As you can see, I'm only at 2,500 damage in this battle, and I'm even scared of that E50M just getting 2 or 3 shells on me as I'm trying to engage that Moushin. I have a feeling he was going to pull out. He doesn't. I'm very smart on him for not pulling out, but you can see that it's definitely not the best on damage per minute, which in my opinion takes away from the survivability and influentialness, if that's how you want to call it, on playing this vehicle. I would much rather be in a Batchat on most scenarios, because while it might not have that really troll spaced armor on it, it has a damage per minute, and it has a great one, about 2,900, which gives you the ability to really get out a nice chunk of damage. Now you're going to see here, I do get out a nice amount of damage in this game, but I really had to play careful. I really had to penetrate pretty much all of my shells I could in this game. There we go, penetrating the rear of the Moushin. But really, I would have loved to have played the Batchat in this battlefield, or even the Vickers Light. I honestly think if I had played the Vickers, I would have been able to get out a lot more damage, played a lot more aggressive. You just really can't play a very aggressive playstyle in this vehicle. But there we go, shot into the E50M, and 3,754 damage was the most I was able to get out of this game. So I definitely think that you can be extremely strong playing in this tank, and you can cause your team to very easily win in this vehicle if you play it correctly. But I also feel at the same time that if you're stuck in the wrong matchup against the wrong tanks, or you just can't get the tank out in damage, it definitely as well can very, very easily fall apart on the team. So I'm actually going to be placing this about a 5 out of 10 on usefulness on the battlefield. I think it's just more of a very fun tank in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Getting up next, we have the Vickers Light. Now this is one of my favorite tanks, actually in tier 10 currently. It's got a really, really fun playstyle, and I do think that this vehicle is extremely influential in the battlefield, of course, if you do know how to run it. Now that sort of goes true for every tank, but this one is truly very hard to run if you don't know what you're doing. I started off playing this tank and I really was struggling with it. If any of you guys were watching my live streams, you really saw me struggle a lot in it. It's because I was playing very aggressive, and I sort of thought it would play like a medium tank because it has a very nice gun, about a medium tank's damage per minute, great accuracy, great spotting. So I thought, you know what, it's got decent armor, I'll run it right up with the medium tanks. But I learned very, very quickly that while you can do that, it also doesn't work at the same time in a position like that. However, you can see me here on Fort Despair, pushing it very, very aggressive. I read the lineup, I noticed they had a very, very heavily armored arsenal there, and I want to distract them. I'm not necessarily pushing in this position to get out a crazy amount of damage, but what I'm doing is I'm distracting their entire team. As you can see here, the E75, the FE2 and 5B, and the Jagdpanzer E100 are all looking at my singular light tank. And because of that, I am being extremely influential in shaping this battle for a victory. Because while I'm doing this, you notice all of my vehicles are dealing with the 2 medium tanks that are currently spotted on their team. So, yeah, while I am getting shot and being a little bit bullied over here, my team is easily able to overpower the tanks on the enemy side. So, it's working very, very well for me. And I actually like this tank, first of all, because it's very accurate. Something that the Sheridan really doesn't have is accuracy. This tank really, really does have a nice amount of accuracy. And while it's definitely not the best dispersion values at far away, if you're about medium distances, which is what I'd suggest to play this vehicle in, it does a very, very solid job at that. Second of all, it carries an amazing shell, which is called Hesh. I love Hesh myself. You're able to whip off 440 damage right off of enemy vehicles, and I think it also has like 120 millimeters of Hesh pen if you are running calibrated. Comes with very nice heat shells, as you can see here, and I'm able to rack up the damage very, very quickly. And that's something that I really, really like. There you go, you can see accuracy again, just slamming a shell right into that Jagdpanzer E100. So in my opinion, if you do know how to run this tank correctly, this in fact is the most influential tier 10 light tank currently in the game. And the reason for that being is, while the Batchat, in my opinion, still is extremely strong, and it played in the right hands, yeah, it can overpower a Vickers Light or anything else like that, but having that Hesh, being able to get behind certain tanks, like if I was behind that 2 and 5B, I would be able to decimate him, having around 4,000 damage per minute on my tank. So that is one plus going for the vehicle. As well, it has a pretty solid turret and 10 degrees of gun depression. So I'm able to play very aggressive in certain scenarios. You can see I've racked up 3,700 damage now. Waited for the E75 to shoot, and again, slamming a shell right into the cupola of his tank. It's just you're able to get so many nice shells out on this vehicle that you really aren't able to do in other tanks. The Batchat, no way I would ever run it in a scenario like this. And yeah, while I am being hit quite a bit here, I actually thought that the E75 might one-shot me there. I'm still breaking 4,000 damage, another snap right into that guy there. And here we go, we got the Hesh loaded. Let's see if we can slam it. Boom, there you go. 381 damage and 5,117 damage in this match already. This is why I think the Vickers Light is just such a strong tank, is because you're able to use that single shot damage, get a massive amount of it out, and that's why I think it's just so influential. Now, unfortunately there, I don't know how we bounced that. It hit like the corner of the T92, which of course you always get that one weird ricochet, so we weren't able to break that 5,000 barrier a crazy amount, but still, you can see we were able to really home in the skills of this light tank, and you can see that was only a second class. Now it takes a crazy amount of skill to actually get out a mastery in the vehicle. So I was very happy with this battle here. This was only like the second battle I played in it today. So I think that the Vickers Light is extremely influential if you do play it in the right scenarios. You definitely need to play it correctly, because if you don't, yeah, it's really, really quickly going to fall apart. Does not have armor. If you're up against medium tanks, you will be ripped apart and shredded, because unlike the Sheridan, this does not have troll-spaced armor. In fact, this has no armor at all. Even the turret, I thought it had decent armor, which it does. You'll get the occasional bounce. Maybe 1/5 of the shells you receive will bounce, but other than that, really, yeah, it's not going to bounce. But I definitely think that it is a very, very strong tank if you can get it right in the scenarios. And lastly, but definitely not least, we have the Batchat. In my personal opinion, this is my favorite Tier 10 light tank. However, I still feel that the Vickers Light does have a slight edge on it, just because it's able to be flexible in almost every single scenario you do get it stuck in. However, this game I did play here was a very, very nice one, very, very simple one, and I did enjoy it because of that. Now, what does the Batchat going for it? Well, this is, in my opinion, the most special because it has 3 shells in a clip, dealing 930 damage when you do get them all out, which is about the same damage as a Death Star with shooting standard ammo. So I do think that this tank is really, really deadly just because you're able to get out a crazy amount of damage. The issue with this tank is when you do bounce a shot like that, yeah, you're really going to pay for it because you don't have the most damage per minute with it. You do have 2,800, but as soon as you miss one shell, it really sucks away the damage per minute. And the funny thing is that the Batchat's actually a Tier 10 medium tank in World of Tanks PC. So I like that Wargaming made it a light tank on Blitz because it really does feel like it's supposed to be a light tank. It does have kind of funky armor. You can get weird auto ricochets on the hull, and as well it has a crazy camo rating. You can see I was only 190 meters away from that AMX, and I did not get spotted. That is crazy. The Vickers Light, 100% I would have been spotted there. That's because the Batchat's a very low, sleek profile, as you can see, so I'm able to slip my way around the map, get behind the enemy, and that's where this tank is extremely deadly, because you're able to whiff 3 shells into the enemy tanks and then get away. And that's why I personally like this tank. You can see there 1, 2, and 3 shells right into that Death Star, taking him right out of the game. If I was in the Vickers Light, that would not have happened, and that 183 would have been still alive, and I would have to been very, very careful. Same with like that AMX, still would have been alive until I would have tapped a second shell. So that's what the Batchat is really, really good at doing, is whipping off half of another medium tank's hit point pool and then just getting away. So I personally think that the Batchat is still an extremely influential tank on the battlefield. Here we go. We have a 111.58, 345 in the first shell. You can see it doesn't have the craziest amount of penetration, but of course that does make sense because you are a light tank. And there we go. I had the hello to heat shell there, but that was another 900 damage, 2,456 damage on the counter now. And I'm just going to quickly reload my clip. It's only about, I think, like a 15-second clip reload, which is about the same as an entire Sheridan's reload. But here we go. We have the 62A. Nice tap into him. Unfortunately, I did get hit by that 111.5A, but that's the first shell I've received on this game. There's the second, but you can see Wargaming buffed the dispersion values on it. So I was actually easily able to tap a shell right into the side of that 62A on the move, running away. And the Batchat has by far the quickest acceleration values, able to get up to the top speed. I think it's like 66 kilometers per hour, way quicker than any other vehicles in the game. Now, unfortunately, because it is French, for some reason French vehicles really struggle with dispersion values and accuracy. It has very good aiming time and dispersion values on the move, but you can see I was not really aiming in that well on the Jagdpanzer there, which isn't too much of an issue when you have the side and rear of tanks in close proximity, but it is a little bit of an issue when you are pretty far away. But here we go. That was the first shell, second shell, and come on, can we get the third shell in on this Batchat? There we go, just breaking 4,000 damage. we had the Batchat flanking this T110 E5 here. I actually took the shells for him. I wanted to make sure that my E5 wasn't going to die, so I made sure to actually block him purposely so that we would not get the E5 kill there. He was able to pen the shell, very good stuff, and final shell tapped right in there. This was the second game as well. I played in the Batchat, a very simple match as you can see, but I was able to completely carry the game, able to flank, cause some distraction there as the guys were trying to push through. It's really one of the strongest tanks as well. I'd actually rate it right up there with the Vickers Light, just because both of them are extremely strong in their own ways. I just feel that the Vickers is a lot more flexible in pretty much any tough scenario you're stuck in, where the Batchat, yeah, it's flexible, but to a certain degree. Once you've unloaded that clip, you definitely are extremely vulnerable. Even Sheridans love picking apart Batchats when they can singularly get shells out and not lose damage per minute. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. As always, if you did, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Really does help out the channel. But other than that, guys, I hope you're all happy out there. Stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.